to help her male assistant, who hadn't closed a single deal in 3 months, land a client. My fiancée, Victoria, went as far as selling our marital home. She needed the money to make outrageously high bids at an auction, buying one of only 10 limited edition luxury watches in the country to help him impress that client. The day the contract was successfully signed, the assistant, Leo, excitedly posted on social media, "Anyone know what it feels like when your boss is as caring as a wife?" Everyone assumed that I, her fiancé, would be furious. Instead, I casually liked his post. Then I had someone buy up the remaining 9 watches and put them on stray dogs by the roadside, complete with my own social media post. "Anyone know what it feels like when even a dog collar can be stolen and given as a gift?" Victoria called me immediately, saying the client, Mr. Wallace, had flown into a rage and wanted to blacklist her assistant for insulting him. She demanded an explanation from me. It seemed that 7 years of my unconditional love had made her forget, while she might be the president of Sterling Corp., I was its largest shareholder and investor. If I could help her soar from obscurity to prominence, now that she had a change of heart, I could certainly strip her of all her feathers. Chapter 1. When I arrived at the company, I happened to see Leo Zimmerman, my fiancé's newly hired male assistant, apologizing and begging a client. "Mr. Wallace, please, let me explain. This watch really was bought at an auction." But before Leo could finish, the client kicked him out of the car. Tossed out with him was the very watch Victoria Sterling had made extravagant bids for at the auction, the one she'd given him to present to the client. From a distance, Leo spotted me and his jaw clenched in anger. I expected him to storm over and confront me, but the next moment, he threw himself down in front of my Range Rover, wailing, tears and snot streaming down his face. "Mr. Clark, I'm just an ordinary employee. I just want to earn a living with my own 2 hands. Is that so wrong? I'm begging you, please let me go, okay?" His being kicked out of the car had already drawn quite a few stares. Now, with him kneeling like that, everyone in the business park froze, and many started filming with their phones, eager for the drama. But watching Leo's pitiful act, I was unimpressed. Victoria might fall for his routine, but that didn't mean everyone would. And this tactic of kneeling and playing the victim, trying to paint himself as the underdog to pressure me, was a common trick I'd seen countless times in my investment career. With that thought, I smiled faintly. "Let you go? All right. But you've insulted an important client of our company, causing not only the cancellation of subsequent collaborations, but also damaging the company's reputation. I won't bother with compensation. Just go upstairs, pack your things, and get out." Leo, who had been about to launch into a sob story, was stunned. You're firing me? It was clearly you who used underhanded tactics to make the client misunderstand me, causing me to lose the deal. This is a personal vendetta. Seeing Leo's look of righteous indignation, I couldn't help but scoff. No wonder Victoria liked him so much. He was so young, both physically and mentally. Or more accurately, naive. For people in my circle, money is just a string of numbers. What we truly care about is our reputation within that circle. It didn't matter how that watch was obtained. Leo had made the client lose face. Naturally, he had to pay the price for his ignorance. Coming back to the present, I said calmly, "A personal vendetta? According to standard company procedure, anyone who hasn't closed a deal in a month should be dismissed. You've been here for 3 months and only signed your first deal yesterday. By any reasonable standard, you don't qualify to stay. I'm just following the rules." Truth be told, the only reason this useless Leo had lasted this long was because Victoria had insisted on keeping him. Victoria, who usually paid no mind to personnel changes, had uncharacteristically spent 3 hours earnestly trying to persuade me, explaining that Leo was indeed a talent worth nurturing, just that he hadn't yet adapted to the work environment after graduating. I hadn't paid much attention at the time, assuming Victoria was just trying to help out a junior from her alma mater. I never imagined that to help him close a deal and keep his job, she would go so far as to sell the marital home we had meticulously decorated, all to make a grand show at an auction to curry favor with a client for him. Since he had crossed the line, I would no longer tolerate it. But Leo still looked unconvinced. I don't care. I'm going to find Boss Vi. She's the president of the company. If she tells me to leave, I'll leave. You don't even have a position in this company. Just because you're her fiancé, what right do you have to order me around? I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Boss V. It seemed their relationship was even closer than I'd thought. But this Leo, he really was a greenhorn, wanting to take a shortcut without even doing his homework. While Victoria was nominally the company president, I was the largest shareholder, holding 50% of the shares. Moreover, I was the investor who had revived the company 7 years ago when its capital chain had broken. I could dismiss not just a junior assistant like him, but even Victoria, the president. However, I couldn't be bothered to explain this to someone like Leo. I simply called security to clear him out, but the next moment the rapid click-clack of high heels approached from behind. Stop, unsurprisingly, it was Victoria. Seeing his beloved Boss V arrive, Leo immediately feigned weakness, collapsing to the ground. Victoria became even more anxious. Disregarding the onlookers, she rushed forward to help Leo up. Leo, how did you get hurt? Did Sincere have his men do this? Hearing this, Leo put on a look of lingering fear, glanced at me in terror, then shook his head violently. No, it's not him. I accidentally fell on my way here. It has absolutely nothing to do with Mr. Clark. Please don't argue with Mr. Clark. It's all my fault for overestimating myself. I shouldn't have had the nerve to stay. I'll resign right now. After his performance, Victoria's gaze towards me grew even angrier. Sincere, I just sold a house. It's not like you're short on money. Did you have to be so ruthless to take revenge on a junior employee like Leo? Besides, he's my assistant. What right do you have to fire him without my consent? Although I had braced myself for this, seeing Victoria defend another man right in front of me still sent a chill through my heart. 7 years ago, Victoria's parents had died suddenly in a car accident, leaving her with a company in shambles. Fresh out of college, Victoria knew nothing about business. The company was soon gutted by a few treacherous executives, leaving her with a mountain of debt and the company on the verge of bankruptcy. Because our families had some prior acquaintance, Victoria came to me. At that time, I was already a reasonably well-known investor in the industry. But even with that slight connection, I wouldn't invest in a hopeless company and incur a loss for nothing. I had my assistant turn her away. But Victoria waited downstairs from my office for a whole month, insisting on seeing me, rain or shine. I was moved by her persistence. I not only invested millions, but also personally helped her rebuild the company, teaching her everything I had learned over the years. And she lived up to my expectations. In 7 years, she transformed from a naive and innocent young woman into a renowned female president in the industry. To repay me, she had long since agreed to marry me. Our story was once considered a beautiful tale in the industry, and I had always believed our bond was unbreakable. But now I realized I had overlooked one thing. People change. My 7 years of unrequited love had, ironically, made her forget a crucial reality. If I could put her on a pedestal, I could naturally take it all back. Still, after 7 years of emotional, temporal, and financial investment, I didn't mind giving her a chance to correct herself. I had someone hand Victoria a blank resignation form and then left the company. Having navigated the business world for years, Victoria naturally understood my meaning. Tomorrow, I did not want to see Leo Zimmerman in the company. The next day, I went to the company as usual to inspect project progress, only to find Leo's original workstation empty. A slight smile touched my lips. It seemed Victoria still had some sense. In this circle, it wasn't uncommon for married couples to live separate lives. Even my parents were no exception. But I didn't want Victoria and me to follow in my parents' footsteps. Now, it seemed that after 7 years, though she might have had a momentary lapse, I was still her one and only. Snapping back to reality, I casually asked Human Resources, "When did Leo Zimmerman resign?" But the next moment the HR person, Hannah Roberts, looked puzzled. Leo Zimmerman? Oh, you mean Director Zimmerman? He didn't resign. In fact, he was promoted to director today. His office has even been moved next to Miss Sterling's. Chapter 2. My smile froze. My message yesterday couldn't have been clearer. Yet, not only had Victoria not fired Leo, she had rapidly promoted him from assistant to director. This was a blatant act of defiance, a clear sign she intended to protect Leo at all costs. Moreover, Leo's new office was the one that had belonged to me for the first 5 years of the company. Even after I stepped back into a behind-the-scenes role these past 2 years, Victoria had kept that office vacant, because it was a testament to our journey through thick and thin together. Victoria knew very well what that office signified for us, yet she had let Leo move into it. My face darkened as I looked at Hannah Roberts. When was this decision made? Why wasn't I informed beforehand? Miss Roberts looked particularly surprised. Didn't Miss Sterling tell you, Mr. Clark? Miss Sterling made the decision at an emergency meeting late last night. She said she didn't want to disturb your rest, so she told us not to inform you. A cold sneer formed in my heart. Well, I really had to thank Victoria for her thoughtfulness. In all these years, this was the first time she had feigned compliance while secretly acting against me, pulling tricks right under my nose. 7 years. The naive, innocent girl whose eyes used to hold only me. She had finally changed. There was a time when she used to consult me on every single decision, big or small, asking for my opinion. Even after the company grew, she maintained this habit. But today, for Leo Zimmerman, she had broken that tradition. Steeling myself, I walked towards Victoria's office, intending to ask her just what she thought she was doing. But even from a distance, I could hear a crowd gathered in front of Leo's office, showering him with compliments. Director Zimmerman is truly young and promising, promoted to management after only 3 months on the job, yes, and I heard the office next to Miss Sterling's has been vacant for 2 years, but now it's been made available for Director Zimmerman. Could it be that you two are? Hearing this, Leo, amidst the crowd, gave a mysterious smile. My relationship with Boss V, you'll understand when you see this. I wasn't initially concerned, assuming he would at most show off a gift from Victoria or some intimate chat logs. After all, no matter how far Victoria might stray, it would only be a momentary indulgence. She valued the company more than her own life. How could she truly betray me, her main investor? But the next second, as I saw what Leo produced, my pupils constricted. Chapter 3. A pregnancy test report? I can't believe Director Zimmerman is about to marry into the family and hit the jackpot, skipping decades of hard work indeed, Director Zimmerman. When you're in power, don't forget us old colleagues listening to the fawning voices from afar. My expression grew increasingly grim. Regarding children, Victoria and I had already discussed it. She said she didn't want to have children before 30. Firstly, her career wasn't stable enough. And secondly, she wanted to continue enjoying our life as a couple, not yet ready to be a mother. I had believed her and always respected her wishes, not rushing into marriage and always taking precautions. But now, she had silently conceived Leo's child. I took a deep breath and pushed open the door to Victoria's office. Seeing me, Victoria, as if she had expected my arrival, took my hand and began to explain. Sincere, I know you're upset, but yesterday's incident caused such a stir, and videos are all over the internet. The company is at a critical juncture for its IPO. If we fire Leo directly, public opinion will affect the company's listing valuation. If we promote him and give him a raise instead, we can actually generate some buzz and enhance our company's reputation. Victoria's excuses were, as always, so high-sounding and flawless. But I didn't want to hear them anymore. Victoria, it's been 7 years. You should know my principles very well. I only look at results. At my words, Victoria sighed and then took a pair of rings from her drawer. Sincere, just like 7 years ago. Trust me one more time, okay? There's a press conference next week. Haven't you always wanted to officially announce our engagement? We can use the engagement to create hype, boost public opinion, and get listed. With your reputation, those investors will surely be confident. Once the company is listed, I promise I'll transfer Leo out immediately." Seeing I didn't agree right away, Victoria's brows furrowed slightly, and she continued making empty promises. "Doesn't your family also want a grandchild? I'm getting to that age anyway. If you just trust me this one more time, I promise I'll give the Clark family a healthy baby boy." With that, Victoria didn't allow me to refuse and pressed the ring box into my hand. Honestly, if Victoria had told me this news even a day earlier, I might have been overjoyed. But now, looking at Victoria's face full of tender affection, and then thinking of the pregnancy report in Leo's hand, I only felt a wave of disgust. In the past, Victoria never initiated talk of marriage or children, but now she was desperate. She was probably afraid she couldn't hide the signs of her pregnancy with Leo's child for much longer. Unknowingly, the little girl who once tearfully bared her soul to me had learned to lie without batting an eyelid. But I didn't expose her directly. After a long moment, I nodded impassively. Victoria immediately smiled and kissed me. "Thank you, hubby. I knew you were the best. I have a meeting to attend. You absolutely must come to the press conference next week, okay?" As soon as Victoria left, I pulled out a wet wipe and vigorously wiped the spot she had kissed, my eyes growing colder. If I could once help Victoria rise from nothing to prominence, now that she had changed, I could certainly strip her of everything. At the press conference, I'll let everyone see if she's a common bird or a phoenix. Chapter 4. Over the next few days, Victoria, believing she had me wrapped around her finger, became even more brazen in paving the way for Leo. Not only did she give him the best resources within the team, but to help him secure more clients and build his reputation, she even proactively took him to various high society gatherings. Her every move mirrored how I had once paved the way for her. And every few days she would send me pictures of wedding dress styles or wedding venue layouts, trying to coax me into increasing my investment in the company. However, even if she plucked the stars from the sky and gave them to me now, I wouldn't feel a shred of affection for her anymore. Soon, it was the day of the press conference. Even though it had long been planned that the core of this conference was the hype around my marriage to Victoria, she still didn't forget to promote Leo in front of countless reporters. The entire conference was only 3 hours long, but for the first 2 hours, Victoria couldn't go 3 sentences without mentioning Leo. Anyone who didn't know better would have thought they were the ones announcing their marriage today. Leo, basking in the limelight, even posted on his social media to show off. "What's it like when your boss is as caring as a wife? Anyone get me?" Leo knew perfectly well I was in the audience, yet he didn't block me. Instead, he deliberately shot me a smug smile. In the past, I might have actually felt my authority was being challenged, but now I simply smiled and liked his post. The clown was working so hard to perform on stage, I had to show some respect, didn't I? Victoria, of course, witnessed all this. Thinking I was jealous, she immediately came to my side and explained, "Leo is still young. It's just that phase where he craves attention. We're about to go on stage for the announcement, so don't bicker with the kid." Even now, Victoria didn't forget to defend Leo. Love and the absence of it truly make a world of difference. I nodded perfunctorily. Victoria, however, gave a gentle smile and took my hand, leading me to the center of the stage. "Everyone, there is another important announcement at today's press conference. I, Victoria Sterling, president of Sterling Corp., will be marrying Mr. Sincere Clark, the prodigy of the investment world, next month. We welcome you all to join us then." Before she even finished speaking, the countless reporters and industry peers present were in an uproar. Although Victoria had been linked to various rumors in previous years, this was the first time she had publicly addressed her romantic life in front of the media. More crucially, the person she was marrying was me. Countless business tycoons would spend lavishly just for a chance to dine with me, all to curry my favor. With my backing, Sterling Corp. would undoubtedly become a prime, highly sought-after asset in the eyes of all investors who would rush to invest. After all, investments involving me had never gone wrong. Instantly, countless reporters pressed for answers. "Mr. Clark, Is what Miss Sterling said true? Hearing this, I glanced at the smug-looking Leo in the audience, then at the expectant Victoria beside me. I then took out the ring box Victoria had given me earlier and smiled faintly. It is indeed true. Before I finished, another wave of gasps erupted from below the stage. Several investment firms that had been observing Sterling Corp. now eagerly extended olive branches to Victoria, wanting to contribute to Sterling's IPO and get a piece of the pie. Seeing her plan succeed, Victoria, still on stage, couldn't wait to exchange furtive, triumphant glances with Leo. Unfortunately for them, they were celebrating too soon. Sterling Corp. owed its current success to my 7 years of financial support and networking. Today, I was going to make her lose everything in the full glare of the public eye. With this thought, I gripped the microphone and spoke again, however. That's all in the past. We've already broken up. The next moment, before anyone could react, I threw the wedding ring on the floor and sneered. I will also take this opportunity to publicly inform the industry that I will be selling all my shares in Sterling Corp. And, effective immediately, I am withdrawing all my investments from Victoria Sterling and her company, Chapter 5. As my words fell, Victoria was stunned. She looked at me in disbelief, then at the wedding ring on the floor. That ring was the result of her meticulous selection, a whole day spent choosing it. But now I had discarded it like trash. Her brow furrowed, and she lowered her voice, asking, "Sincere, what are you doing? This isn't what we agreed on, is it?" Her voice trembled slightly. Clearly, my sudden move had thrown her. But Victoria, having navigated the business world for years, quickly composed herself. She grabbed the microphone from the host beside her and addressed the agitated reporters below. "Everyone, I apologize. Sincere was just joking with me, trying to liven up the atmosphere. Please don't take it seriously, don't take it seriously." She even forced a smile at me, signaling with her eyes for me to play along, but I just looked at her coldly. "Who's joking with you?" "Victoria, I'm serious." My voice wasn't loud, but it carried clearly through the microphone in her hand, instantly silencing all the commotion. The next second, the audience erupted. Countless camera flashes went off like crazy, shutters clicking incessantly. Reporters pushed forward excitedly, terrified of missing this earth-shattering news. Broken up? And he's withdrawing investments and selling shares? This is a complete fallout. Sterling Corp. was just about to take off, and Sincere's move is going to send it crashing back to square one. Seeing the situation spiral out of control, Victoria could no longer care about her image and directly questioned me, "Sincere, what on earth are you doing? Even if you're jealous, there has to be a limit. So what if I sold a marital home and promoted Leo to director? He's a talent I see potential in. What's wrong with giving him a promotion and a raise? Are you going to embarrass me like this in front of so many people over such a trivial matter? Withdrawing investments and selling shares. Do you have to be so petty?" But watching her flustered and furious demeanor, I found it utterly laughable. Even now she still thought I was just throwing a tantrum, being jealous. She simply didn't understand, or rather refused to understand. The heart that had beaten for her for 7 years had long since, through her repeated provocations and betrayals, grown completely cold, dead. At this point, Leo, who was in the audience, also reacted. He rushed onto the stage with an anxious look, saying pitifully, "Mr. Clark, don't be rash. It's all my fault. I'm not worthy of Boss Fee's trust. I shouldn't have stayed in the company. I'll leave right now. Please don't let me affect your relationship with Boss 5, and certainly don't affect the company's future." His heartfelt performance, coupled with his aggrieved expression, was truly Oscar-worthy. Seeing Leo kneel, Victoria became even more agitated and furious, pointing at me and yelling, "Sincere, look what you've driven him to in front of so many people. Aren't you ashamed?" She went to help Leo up, her eyes still glaring daggers at me. "You're always suspicious of me, suspicious of Leo, and now you do this. Doesn't your conscience hurt? Don't you feel guilty?" "Guilty?" I felt like I'd heard the biggest joke in the world and actually laughed out of anger. The next moment I reached into the inner pocket of my suit and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Is that so? Then I'd like to ask you, when you secretly got pregnant with Leo's child, didn't tell me, and planned to make me the unwitting father, to raise someone else's son for you, didn't your conscience feel a shred of guilt? Chapter 6. Before everyone's eyes, I unfolded the paper. It was, unmistakably, a pregnancy report. The name on it was crystal clear. For a moment, the entire venue fell into dead silence. Leo was utterly dumbfounded, his eyes wide with disbelief as he stared at the pregnancy report in my hand. This? How do you have this? His voice trembled, and all color drained from his face. I tugged at the corner of my mouth, a sarcastic, cold smile playing on my lips. How do I have it? Victoria probably forgot to tell you that in this company, I am, after all, the largest shareholder. Naturally, I have my people within the company. When you were showing off this report in your new office, my people took the opportunity, while you stepped out to make a call, to go in and make a copy. After all, for such a big surprise, I ought to be informed, shouldn't I? The reporters went completely wild, questions flooding in like a tidal wave. Miss Sterling, is this true? Are you really pregnant with Director Zimmerman's child? Mr. Clark, so this is the real reason for your breakup? Director Zimmerman, what exactly is your relationship with Miss Sterling? Leo, at the end of the day, was just an inexperienced young man. For a moment, his face was ashen, his lips trembled, and he couldn't utter a single word. Victoria, on the other hand, quickly composed herself and looked at me coldly. So, you knew all along. You've been acting this whole time, just waiting for today, waiting to deliver this fatal blow at the press conference. She looked at me, her eyes filled with a complex mix of emotions, finally settling into a venomous glare. Sincere Clark, you are so devious hearing this. I almost laughed at her logic that twisted right and wrong. It was clearly she who cheated first, got pregnant with another man's child, and tried to deceive me into raising it. Now that I had exposed her scheme and retaliated, it was somehow my fault. I was the devious one. I couldn't be bothered to argue with her anymore, simply sneering. Whether I'm devious or not is none of your concern. Right now, you should be more worried about Sterling Corp's cash flow after I pull my funding. Without my investment, without my gold-plated reputation, let's see which investor dares to take over this mess you've made. After all, Sterling Corp owed its current success to my 7 years of financial support and networking. Without me, Sterling Corp was nothing. But unexpectedly, after hearing my words, Victoria's face showed no despair. Instead, a smile played on her lips. Sincere, you underestimate me, Victoria Sterling. Did you really think I came unprepared? As she spoke, she turned and took a folder from her assistant. Under countless gazes, she slapped a document onto the table of the press conference podium. Chapter 7. It was, unmistakably, a signed financing agreement. Sincere, I haven't been idle this past week. Just as I was building up Leo and promoting him to director, I happened to close a huge deal the other party is very optimistic about. Sterling's potential and Leo's abilities, and they decided to invest on the spot. Victoria held her chin high, waving the contract in her hand as if it were a victory banner. Without you, Sincere Clark, not only will Sterling Corp not fall, but we can still secure funding and go public regrettably for her, Leo, who had been a spineless wreck moments ago, now stood tall and proud, adjusting his disheveled suit and tie, his face beaming with the smugness of a petty victor. Sincere, now you know what it means to underestimate someone, huh? Didn't you look down on me before? Thought I was just a lowly assistant, not even good enough to shine your shoes? Well, how about now? He leaned forward, lowering his voice so only a few of us could hear, and sneered. I slept with your woman. She's carrying my child, and she's going to be spending your money. Oh no, now it's the new investor's money, and we'll still be living the high life in the end. You still lost to me. For a moment, the reporters below also understood the current situation. Their eyes, when they looked at me, were filled with sympathy and regret. Sigh, Mr. Clark has really had it rough. Yeah, 7 years of devotion wasted. And now it looks like someone else is about to snatch the company away. This Victoria Sterling and Leo Zimmerman, they're truly despicable. The murmurs weren't loud, but they clearly reached the stage. But not only was I not angry, after carefully examining the contract, I actually laughed out loud. Victoria frowned instantly, looking at me as if I were crazy. Sincere, what are you laughing at? I, however, pointed to the financing contract in her hand. Victoria, aren't you curious about this new investment company that has such a keen eye for talent and dares to invest so heavily in you? Who exactly is the controlling shareholder behind it? Chapter 8. Victoria froze for a moment, then scoffed dismissively. Check? What's there to check? They see the potential in our company, and Leo's abilities. Isn't that enough? Sincere, stop being deliberately cryptic and wasting time. If you don't want to be utterly humiliated, just get lost. But I simply smiled and shook my head. What? Are you scared? Hearing this, Victoria's brows knitted tightly, and she eyed me suspiciously for a few moments. Ultimately, she couldn't overcome the faint sense of unease and had Leo quickly look up the background of this investment company. A few minutes later, however, Leo stammered, Miss Sterling, why you should probably take a look yourself." Victoria impatiently snatched the tablet and looked down. The next second, her pupils contracted violently. No, impossible. How could it be a subsidiary of the Clark Group? Seeing Victoria looking utterly devastated, I was actually a little surprised myself. Previously, because Victoria and I had been together for 7 years but had yet to set a wedding date, my father, Edward Clark, had always harbored some reservations about her, feeling she was somewhat devious and not entirely trustworthy. But a while ago, Victoria, probably to secure her position with me, had proactively suggested publicizing our relationship and moving forward with the wedding plans. She even leaked some information to the media to create an atmosphere of an impending official announcement. My father, believing we were finally going to make it official, had planned to invest in Sterling Corp. As a surprise wedding gift for me. Because it was a surprise, he hadn't told me beforehand. It was only just now, seeing Victoria produce the contract, hearing her words, and then seeing the results of her search, that I belatedly pieced it all together. I had to admit, fate truly has a twisted sense of humor. An investment meant to symbolize blessings and support had, at this very moment, become the final straw that would break Victoria. 1 second in heaven, the next plunged directly into hell. After a long pause, Victoria finally came to her senses. The arrogance from moments before had vanished. She grabbed my arm, her voice choked with sobs, pleading desperately, Sincere, please listen to me, let me explain the baby. I can get rid of the baby. I'll go to the hospital right away, I promise it'll be clean. As for Leo, I'll fire him right now, I'll make him leave. Can we start over, please? Sincere, we've had 7 years together. How can you just throw it all away? But no matter what Victoria said, I remained unmoved. After a moment, as if remembering something, she frantically pointed to the slightly worn red good luck charm on my belt, exclaiming, Sincere, do you remember this? Chapter 9. We had just gotten together back then. You were struggling to secure investments for my company, hitting dead ends everywhere, almost ready to give up. It was me. I went to the temple on the mountaintop, step by step. I climbed 3,000 steps on my knees and kowtowed 10,000 times before the altar, just to get this good luck charm for you. You said you would wear it forever, that you would always cherish my feelings. You're still wearing it, which means you still have feelings for me, right? Victoria looked at me with tear-filled eyes, trying to awaken any last shred of warmth in my heart. I looked at the good luck charm. Indeed, it was familiar. When she gave it to me back then, I treasured it, because I believed it held her pure and fervent love for me. Unfortunately, people change. 7 years had long since eroded that fervor, leaving only calculation and betrayal. Her love had long since spoiled. This token, once a symbol of our love, now seemed utterly ironic. I gently pushed her hand away and then threw the good luck charm straight into the trash can. Thank you for the reminder, Victoria. This piece of trash needed to be thrown out too. Seeing this, the crowd below understood everything, and a wave of murmurs spread. My God, so the new investor was Mr. Clark's father all along? Is this Victoria Sterling out of her mind, ditching a great catch like Mr. Clark for that pretty boy assistant? She thought she was so clever. Turns out it was a surprise gift from his dad to his future daughter-in-law, and she used it to show off to the actual man involved? Talk about throwing away a diamond for a pebble. Her judgment is terrible, serves her right. A woman like that deserves to lose both the man and the money. Each taunt pierced Victoria's heart like a knife. Furious and humiliated, she violently shook off my hand, her eyes once again turning venomous. Sincere Clark, don't you get too smug. So what if it's not your father's investment? I, Victoria Sterling, built this company. With my own 2 hands I can survive without anyone. She gritted her teeth, then looked at Leo beside her as if grasping at her last straw. I still have Leo. He's capable, he can help me. We can still make the company bigger and stronger. But as soon as her words fell, Leo, with a thud, knelt before me once again. Mr. Clark, spare me. This was all Victoria's plan. She forced me into it. She was tired of you long ago. She set her sights on me because I'm young and obedient. So she deliberately seduced me. She said if I listened to her, the company would be ours. I was just momentarily confused, deceived by her. As he spoke, he slapped himself hard across the face. The baby in her belly. I don't even know if it's mine. Maybe she was messing around outside, got pregnant with some bastard's child, and deliberately pinned it on me, forcing me to take responsibility to save his own skin. He was babbling incoherently, flinging all sorts of accusations at Victoria. Seeing I still didn't react, his eyes suddenly lit up as if he'd thought of something, and he said eagerly, Mr. Clark, if I have evidence Victoria Sterling has been evading taxes and has cooked the books multiple times, the evidence is in the safe in her office. The password is my birthday. Mr. Clark, I beg you, be the bigger person and let me go. I'm just a victim. She used for a moment. Everyone was stunned by this sudden turn of events. Victoria, especially, was so enraged by Leo's words that she trembled all over, pointing at him, unable to utter a word for a long time. And I, watching this dog-eat-dog spectacle, finally couldn't help but sneer. Victoria, 7 years, and your judgment of character is still as terrible as ever. Chapter 10. Hearing my words, Victoria stared blankly for a long time before coming to her senses, her gaze fixed deadly on Leo. Why? Leo, tell me why I was so good to you. I liked you so much for you. I betrayed Sincere for you. I'm standing here pregnant, being condemned by everyone. I gave you the best resources. I made you a director. I said half the company would be yours. How could you do this to me? How could you? The next moment, she lunged at him, trying to grab him, but Leo shoved her away with disgust, and she stumbled, nearly falling. Looking at her devastated state, Leo showed not a shred of remorse. Instead, he sneered, dusting off the sleeve Victoria had touched as if it were contaminated. Like, Victoria, take a good look at yourself. Who the hell would want an old hag like you if it weren't for your money? For using you as a stepping stone, you really thought I liked you? Liked what? That you're old and past your prime? Or that you're desperate and clingy? He leaned closer, his voice low, his face contorted in an exaggerated expression of disgust. Do you know how I feel every time I have to play along with you? It's that lingering old lady smell you have that never washes off every time you touched me. I felt sick. I wanted to puke. If it weren't for your money, for being able to climb up by stepping on you, I wouldn't even want to touch you. You're too dirty at that moment, Victoria. Looking at the man she had once cherished and sacrificed everything for, now revealing such an ugly, disgusting side, could bear it no longer and spat out a mouthful of blood. Leo, however, didn't even glance at Victoria. He hurriedly turned back to me, fawning like a dog begging for scraps. "Mr. Clark, you see, I've told you everything. That evidence will definitely send her to jail. Can I go now?" A flicker of hope shone in his eyes, believing his betrayal would earn him a chance at survival. But I, looking at his desperate attempt to flee, simply pointed behind him. "Go? I'm afraid you'll have to ask the people behind you about that." Leo turned around, puzzled. The next second, the smile on his face froze instantly. At the entrance of the venue, unbeknownst to him, a line of stern-faced police officers in uniform had appeared. "Take them away." Two officers quickly moved forward, their actions swift and precise, handcuffing Leo from either side. No, officers. You've got the wrong person. I'm the victim. I'm the whistleblower." It was her. Victoria Sterling evaded taxes. She transferred assets. I was coerced by her hearing this. Victoria, who had been collapsed on the floor, immediately crawled to my feet, clinging tightly to my trouser leg. Sincere, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Please let me go this once, okay? For the sake of our 7 years together, for the sake of how much I once loved you, I'll give you the company. Everything at Sterling is yours. I don't want anything anymore. I'll just be good and stay by your side. Be a devoted wife and mother. I'll slave away for you, really," she cried her heart out, trying to move me with past affection and future promises. But I ruthlessly kicked away her hand, which was clutching my trouser leg. "It's too late, Victoria. The law will give you the judgment you deserve, and even looking at you one more time disgusts me." The police wasted no more time, stepping forward to haul up Victoria, who was like a walking corpse, and put her in handcuffs. Even as he was being escorted to the police car, Leo was still cursing madly, cursing Victoria for ruining him, cursing me for being ruthless, cursing fate for being unfair. Ultimately, Sterling Corp.'s press conference, intended to hype its IPO through a wedding announcement, ended as a farce, with both its president and her assistant being arrested by the police. Half a year passed in a blink. The cases of Victoria Sterling and Leo Zimmerman had also seen the dust finally settle. They were implicated in multiple crimes, including embezzlement and tax evasion. In the end, Victoria was found guilty on multiple charges and sentenced to 5 years in prison. Leo, as an accomplice, received a 3-year sentence. I heard that in court, the two of them were still blaming and accusing each other, making complete fools of themselves, becoming a laughingstock in our circles. As for Victoria's company, after I withdrew my investment, partners terminated their contracts one after another, and it could only head towards bankruptcy and liquidation. Not only that, due to multiple instances of commercial fraud and breach of contract, Victoria personally bore astronomical debts. Even after the court enforced the liquidation of all her executable assets, it was merely a drop in the bucket. What awaited her after 5 years in prison was a long and desperate life of repaying debts. And as for me, my life had long since turned a new page. After I focused on my career, the Clark Group's empire continued to expand, with profits reaching new highs. My abilities also gained the full recognition of my father and the board of directors. My family, seeing that I had completely moved on from the shadow Victoria had cast, also arranged new blind dates for me. This time, it was a well-bred young woman from a respected scholarly family, someone with an impeccable and well-known background. She had a gentle and serene disposition, and her family background was spotless. There were no such complicated schemes in her eyes. We met a few times, and we both felt good about each other. Both sets of parents were delighted with the match and quickly finalized the engagement. The wedding is set for next month, and this time I will absolutely not let the same mistake happen a second time. The end.